Hello, everybody. Welcome back to This Weird House. I am Nick Boddick, and today we have a very special guest. The first person I ever interviewed when I decided I wanted to start interviewing people. And I don't know what I said to convince him, but I'm very glad I was able to. I'm here with Mr. Brandon Scott. How are you, Brandon?
Oh, yo, I'm doing well, doing well. You're good?
Glad to hear it, man. Like I said when we were talking, I might retread some stuff from another video that's on the YouTube channel that this will end up on, but I uh, I feel as though my interview techniques have improved, so I might be able to get a little deeper into some of the stuff I want to know about, which is why I do this podcast for me.
I don't even remember what we talked about, so it's all going to be new information for me also. And my interview techniques have probably gotten worse. So,
All right, I guess we'll find out. Hopefully, we can meet somewhere in the middle.
yeah,
And we'll just be at exactly the same point we were last time.
perfect.
All right, I'm a horror guy, so mainly I want to talk to you about your work in horror. So you starred in 2016's Blair Witch reboot, continuation, whatever you want to classify it as.
Right.
Were you a fan of the original Blair Witch?
Oh, so much so. I mean that movie haunted me. I mean honestly, I don't remember all the details around my experience of it. I saw it in a movie theater. And I just know I was duped, man. I really thought that this was some real footage, and I remember leaving that theater like terrified. And so when I found out that it was a movie, I wasn't even mad at them. I was like, "This is dope. This is very dope." And then the more I think I watched it multiple times. It's still like I haven't seen it in a while, but one of my favorites. And the more I watched it, I just loved the lore around it. I loved the story. I just love how that. Then you found out about the execution. I was like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, so I was a big fan.
Yeah, man. I actually do remember my experience with it. I remember my uncles let me watch it, and we were in my grandparents' basement at the time, and I'm watching the movie, and I couldn't wait to go back to my friends and be like, "That wasn't shit. I was not scared at all." And then the last like 3 minutes of the movie happened, and I pretty much cried myself to sleep for like 4 years.
Yeah,
Scared the shit out of me, dude.
it's so haunting. It's and just the fact that it's iconic because the imagery too. I mean, like the just you can I can just recall certain like shots that just still give me chills today. I mean, always in the corner, and then like
For
some
sure. Oh yeah.
prints and stuff, and I'm just like, man, that is brilliant, brilliant.
For sure. Yeah, the standing in the corner has to be one of the most iconic images in horror movies, I would think.
Yeah.
Like it's everybody knows it even if they haven't seen the movie.
And that's what was so dope about when I read the script, the new because there was so much secrecy around what the project was. Um, but when I saw that I mean, hopefully this isn't spoiler alert, but that my character got to stand in the corner, I was like, yes. So, I don't,
Hell yeah, dude, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, man, I remember when I first saw the trailer for your Blair Witch, it wasn't even called Blair Witch, it was called The Woods, I think.
Woods, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I'm a huge like Evil Dead is my all-time favorite horror movie.
Uh-huh.
So I'm all in for horror in the woods. So even before I knew it was Blair Witch, I was like, let's go.
Yeah. And it was actually called, I think it was called Stakes at first. When I auditioned for it, it was called The Stakes. And I thought it was something to do with vampires, like, like,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then they changed it to The Woods. And then I guess there was that big reveal about Blair Witch. And yeah. But it's just hard to emulate what those guys did back in, what is that, 98 or 99? I don't know.
Yeah, something like yeah, 98, 99.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I the reveal for that it was Blair Witch got me. I remember I was sitting in our apartment and I was scrolling through some website and it was like, oh, The Woods is actually Blair Witch. And I remember I actually stood up and I was like, Kimmy, fuck yes. I was like, they're finally continuing it. Cause I mean, Blair Witch did have a direct sequel like 2 or 3 years later or something, which
Book of
was
Shadows or
Book
something.
of Shadows. Yeah, it was lackluster to say,
Yeah.
to be diplomatic about it. But you mentioned the lore, like it's crazy how much like how expansive the lore of Blair Witch really is. Like even like in the early 2000s when it like there were no huge like expansive mythoses mythes
Mhm.
whatever it is
Yeah.
mythosissies
Yeah.
and
Right.
the like the amount of like, I mean, they had fake news articles uh drawn up with all the information on like Edward, whatever, I'm blanking on the names now, but like it was just crazy. And there were books, video games, like mobile games were starting to come out. Like it's crazy how much of a landmark film Blair Witch really was. So it's
It's
just awesome that you got to be a part of that world.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes I forget just kind of when you're in it just yeah, it is so awesome to be a part of it. And sometimes I guess I forget that I was a part of it. It's so weird. But yeah, I really hope and I'm sure someone's out there thinking about ways to continue it because and maybe they just have to, you know, let it kind of ice for a bit between each one to kind of renew interest. But that's one of those. I mean, there's so much IP that you're annoyed when it gets repeated. But I could
Yeah,
be so happy with the Blair Witch continuing. I'm not gonna lie, for sequel and sequel. I don't care how it does. I just want to dive more into this world and learn more about what's going on with it. And there even just the progression of like you know, in our version, you kind of got a glimpse of the monster, but not really like you know. And not saying that you ever need to fully show the monster, but you never know. Eventually, there could be a whole progression of all. Just there's just so much opportunity there, and
for sure. Yeah,
there.
yeah, like the way that it's been kept vague in each, and I'm really only count, not, you know, no disrespect to the people who put their hard work into Book of Shadows, but I'm talking about like the two found footage ones. Like the the way that it's kept vague is done perfectly in there. Because I mean, the old horror adage is that like nothing is scarier than the monster you are picturing before you know what it is.
Hmm.
And like, I mean, that's Blair Witch to a T,
Yeah.
right? Which, yeah, so you guys crushed it there. And actually, so regarding the production of Blair Witch, I know it was directed by Adam Wingard,
Hmm.
written by Joe Swanberg, who kind of made their bones in a sort of subgenre colloquially referred to as mumblecore, which is like naturalistic dialogue and stuff. So I was just kind of wondering, like, and especially pertaining to a found footage movie, which a lot of mumblecore movies are. Um, was every word you guys spoke written down, or was it more like a, hey, this is what we're doing in this scene. This is the information we need to get across. Get
Uh-huh.
us from A to B.
That's a good. Well, one thing. I remember. Well, Simon Barrett was the writer on our who was on set. I don't. The other guy who you mentioned. I don't know if he was like
Oh, did
credit.
I say Joe Swanberg?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that was the other guy. Sorry, those three have worked together on a bunch of stuff. Yes, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Adam Wingard directed. Simon Barrett was the writer of Blair Witch. My mistake.
Yeah, because I know they had done a few things together, like You're Next and The Guest, and but yeah, you know it. I think we got a lot of liberty because we I think we if I recall correctly. Well, number one, Adam Wingard, he's an awesome director. He's also like David Fincher in the sense that he does multiple takes. You know,
Mm,
like I think we racked 70 something takes of one scene one time. Um,
wow.
and it's just these little and I once auditioned with I was in this cast in the HBO version of Utopia, which was this BBC, but then it went to Amazon anyway. So I had a couple of weeks with David Fincher and very meticulous, very detailed, and just the smallest. Like we do take again, and he'd like just do little adjustments and stuff. And so Adam Wingard's very similar, but I think in the repetition of it, sometimes you know we would do what's on the page and then sometimes we would get because over 70 something takes it's like okay now what else is there and so sometimes we would get to ad lib too and I think in a sense to kind of make it more found footage and naturalistic sometimes I think a lot of it was on the page but also sometimes you just have to add a little bit of something here and there just so it just feels less dialogue-y
Yeah.
so but what made it in the cut I think was a mixture of both I know I my character I was having a lot of fun with my characters, so I think I got to throw in some things here and there. But they really gave us the reins to just kind of you know try a bit of both, and then I think they just had everything in the can, and then could edit around there whatever they needed.
Yeah. for sure. And funny you mentioned Utopia. I watched Utopia for the first time like 2 weeks ago.
The
It's
Amazon
weird.
version.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird you brought that up.
I didn't. I still haven't seen that. I think I was a little hurt. I was a little hurt because I had seen the BBC one, and again, I haven't seen the Amazon one, so I can't compare it. But the BBC one is excellent, and so I was so excited to be a part of the HBO version, and then it was being directed by David Fincher. I was like, what the hell? This is
Of
awesome.
course, yeah.
And what's her name? Rooney Mara. Is she the one who girl in the dragon tattoo was supposed to be
Hmm.
the I can't remember her name, but the girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a ridiculous cast. So then when that whole thing fell apart, and then it went to Amazon, and they got like a completely different cast, I was like, I can't bring myself to watch it. It just brings up memories.
Oh, dude, I do not blame you. If I would take every like I say this, I get rejected on like a weekly basis with stories I submit.
Yeah.
So like I get it, dude. Like I mean, it's not the same, obviously, but
But it
I
is. It's like that thing of sometimes you gotta like you just gotta know like, hey, this isn't the thing for me to like dive into right now because it might
it's a little fresh.
be down. Yeah, yeah, it's a little fresh.
Yeah,
You get
yeah.
it. You get it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go in with a negative like skew towards it. Yeah, no, like there's anthologies I've been like shortlisted for and then got the rejection, and I see the rest of like I see the table of contents with all the authors that did make it in, and I'm like, I love everybody in this. I will not be reading it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel so petty, but I know myself, and I know eventually I will read it and love it.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes
yeah.
you just need that. You need that kind of like that distance or those boundaries so that you can continue to stay like, hey, this keeps me staying in my lane and creative and keeps me
Mm-hmm.
resilient to because there's so much rejection, so
Mm-hmm.
much rejection. And we got to get back up and be like, okay, well, I still love this. And there's a reason why I'm continuing to pursue this thing that 90% of the time, is rejected. It's like that 10%
Yeah.
of the time, it's like such euphoria and just,
Seriously.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Hell yeah, man.
as we continue this crazy business.
Yeah, and so jumping forward a few years. Yeah, no, like the next year, Channel Zero,
Oh,
which, in my opinion, I will scream this from the rooftops for as long as I live. Channel 4 of Channel Zero, The Dream Door, is the best horror that has ever been produced for television.
man,
Period.
I
Period.
I think Channel Zero is one of just the best horror series. I mean,
I,
I I don't know. Someone should pick this show back up and continue these anthologies because I mean, continue telling these stories because there's so much rich lore there again, and there's a fan base. And what Nick was doing, I think, was and I feel like he's really starting to get more of his flowers lately, like he's got some great projects going on, but I just think that
yeah.
he could that show would do really well on now and maybe just like a different network or a different streaming service. But yeah, that's how you is that how you reached out to me the first time? Or we connected? Was it through Channel Zero?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because of Channel Zero, I did the personal self shout out, shameless self promotion. I did another series, 100% True, where I covered all the different like creepypasta internet horror stories,
Yeah.
of which Channel Zero is based on. So
Yeah.
find that on my YouTube channel. So,
Yeah.
but did you? So how did you get involved with that? Was that just a random script that came across your desk, and then?
Yeah, the first season, oh not the first season, the third season did, and I had gone in for this casting director, her name is Zane, Bonnie Zane, a couple of times, and it's just one of those things. Again, to anyone who's listening, who's out there pursuing anything, sometimes you never know what fans you're making, even if you're not getting the acceptance at that time, or you're not getting the job or whatnot. You just continue to do your thing because you're making fans, and you just don't know. And I believe that you just keep sticking to your craft and doing the work, eventually the dots might connect. I think they will connect. So I had been auditioning for her for a long time and never gotten much traction. And then this script came up, and just really, it was for the third season of Channel Zero, and just really connected with the character. And that's how I got on. So I got cast in the third season as Luke and had so much fun, and really connected with Nick and the writers and the Winnipeg team. And what was wild is then they had never, I don't think for any other season, brought back an actor for a character. And
Hmm.
and I don't know how, I'm trying to remember how Dream Door came up, whether it was like just they were like, "Hey, are you interested in audition?" Because I had to audition again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
it was, but the fact that they even were willing to say, "Hey, this might be an interesting role for Brandon," even though we've never done this before, bringing an actor back, or like for like such a big character, and also, but well, let's just still have him audition. It wasn't like an offer or anything. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to work with these people again. And then I read because I didn't get I don't think I got the full script. I just got some of the sides. And I was like, what is this? This is wild. And, but again, another thing that I just really connected to and really fought for. I think I had to go through multiple auditions for it, and eventually got the part. And so I'm so grateful they just gave me the opportunity to even just be in the running for it again, and then just to eventually be a part of. Yeah, because the Dream Door, that was such a fun season.
Yeah, the so yeah, and when I say channel or sorry, season 4 is the best ever, like I do count Channel Zero as a whole probably the best horror TV period in
Yeah,
my personal opinion. But Channel Jesus, season
I
4.
know
How
it's
many
nothing
times am
is
I
a
going to do
hero for.
that? I like I've probably watched that season of TV. I've probably watched those 6 hours 10 times.
Yeah, wow.
Like, and it's just phenomenal. And like Pretzel Jack is a, like, I was gonna say an antagonist, but spoiler alert again, like he's not really an antagonist essentially, like, but he's just such like a fascinating villain. I'm actually writing a YouTube video about Pretzel Jack, and I talked to
You talked to Troy?
Troy.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. He's great. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he was like, I just kind of hit him up with some. I asked him if I could ask him some stuff about it, and he was like, sure.
Mhm.
And I sent him, a list of questions. He got back to me with the most detailed, like, it went so far above and beyond what I was expecting to get as an answer, and it was, or as answers, and like, so shout out to him. He's just the coolest guy.
He's very cool.
And like, what was it? So what we ended up seeing on screen, I'm always like really fascinated with like the process from the page to the screen.
Mhm.
So what we saw on screen, did anything change from what you read in the scripts when you as you read them?
I'm trying to remember. I sometimes have the memory of a goldfish, so like so long ago. Uh, you know, I I I just know it may have been on the page and probably was on the page. I just know that I remember being so shocked by what Pretzel Jack ended up becoming, and because it's again one of those things that it's what I love about the tone of Channel Zero. It's horror, but it's also weird and bizarre and creepy. And it's not just like ooh scary. It's like it's uncomfortably delicious sometimes.
For
And
sure, it's a show that makes you be like, "What the fuck am I watching right
yes,
now?"
exactly, exactly. And Pretzel Jack, I think maybe my go-to was this like terrifying like creature, which he was, but the thing that was so terrifying was just how joyous and childlike the he is. And so that's the thing that when Troy inhabited him, that maybe and it and I it probably again was all on the page, but then Troy is just such a fun, playful, lovely, awkwardly like contortionist, like just the idea of like how he can just walk in a room and then just like fall over and do some weird position. That's just again that feeling of what the hell am I watching, right?
Yeah.
And so when you just couple that with this costume and this character and the circumstances, it just really, I think, elevated what was in the script. And I was, yeah, I think even when we were shooting it, I was like, "What is this character? This is wild." I don't, and he just, I think he is like one of the best. Like you said, he's not an antagonist because the circumstances, like his protectionist, like childlike essence, is what makes him just a complex protagonist. I mean, or
Mhm.
whatever, some mix. So maybe there's some other word out there for it, but quite an iconic character. And again, I would love to see more of. I could see a Pretzel Jack movie, or
Oh, easily.
I could see so much more of that character.
Yeah, because it's really like Pretzel Jack is almost just an extension of one of the two protagonists.
Mhm.
I said I've seen the show a million times, but I'm blanking on her name.
Maria, but her,
Maria Sten. Yeah,
yeah, but I'm trying to think of her character name. But yes, I know who you're talking about.
yeah. Like it's really he, Pretzel Jack is almost not even a character in and of himself. He's just an extension of her. So it's just a different facet of her, which is such a cool way of going about things. Because I can't think of another of any other show, movie, book, whatever, where I've seen that. Like that was such a unique concept of. I mean, there's been monsters based on emotions and stuff, but like this, like you said, this childlike personification, this thing that was created when she was 6 years old or whatever, and it is still that exact form, and then is being like kind of projected out of her, was just that's genius writing. I just man, I could sing his praises all day.
Yeah. Nick is great like that, and then also to just to keep the surprises coming because yeah, I'm remembering more of the story that yeah, he is a projection of like her trauma. He's there to protect her. He's kind of like the thing that we all have that kind of protects us, but just as the as a killer manifestation form.
Yeah.
But then the fact that, and another spoiler alert, I'm just remembering that the brother then becomes the main antagonist is
Yep.
just I remember reading those scripts and just yeah, just being on the edge of my seat uh and and genuinely impressed and surprised with each twist and turn. And yeah, if you, I mean, hopefully if anyone listening to this, if you haven't seen, hopefully we haven't spoiled it for you.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
worth a watch.
It's 100% worth the watch.
Is
I'm
it even
pretty
still?
sure I've mentioned.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm like, is it even still air? I don't even know what's going on with streaming shows these days. Like
Yeah, I believe it's on Shutter.
on show.
I
Okay,
th-
cool,
I
cool.
think it's on Shutter. Yeah, that's where I watched it last, and that was like a year or so ago. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's there. Um, so I did have another question. Now I'm trying to fill in dead air while I try to remember what that question was.
Pretzel
Um,
Jack.
oh no, okay, no, it was kind of moving on a little bit from there. So are you like a fan of horror, like just in general, beyond having worked in it? Like, did you grow up watching horror movies and stuff, or?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I'm a fan. I wouldn't say that I'm up to date on all the horror, but I definitely grew up watching like all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, Friday 13th, Halloween's, Hellraisers. I mean, my brother and I. Some of my favorite memories are my brother and I just watching these movies that terrified me. I don't. I mean, like I could not sleep afterwards, but we just would have the best time watching them and then just like running around and like I probably got in trouble so many times cursing from saying trying to steal moments from them, or like reenacting them. What was it? Dream Warriors, Friday the 13th. Is that the
Hell
not
yeah,
Friday the 13th? Nightmare on Elm Street,
Nightmare.
the third one, yeah, or something like that. Just oh man. So yes, yes, and I dip in and out. I read a lot of Stephen King, but it's been a while. And But my wife is a big horror fan, and so she mostly like it'll be like just a Saturday night, and we're like, "You want to watch something?" And she's either going to suggest a documentary that might as well be a horror documentary, weird cult shit, or she's going to suggest a horror movie. And so yeah, she keeps me I think tapped in a good way. But yeah, I still I love horror.
Okay, for sure. And that's actually perfect because my next question is hypothetically, if you could, and I'm going to ask you a different version of this question in a little bit. If you could be a part of any of those franchises, you know, Friday the
Mhm.
13th, Evil Dead, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, Texas Chainsaw, whatever, all those, is there, which one would you, which sandbox would you hop into?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, honestly, out of all of them, Blair Witch. You know, I would love to. Can if they do that, I'm always down to continue. You know, being in that genre, that lore. If it was another one, let me think. Hmm. I think for nostalgia, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they were to revamp that, I'm like, do I want to play Freddy Krueger? Could there be a black Freddy? I'm like, I'm like, actually, I think you're helping me identify something I never knew. I'm like, maybe because what's funny is whenever I was a kid, I was always Freddy Krueger. Like whenever I said we would play it, I was just always playing that character, and I would, yeah, I would love to play a bad guy or a villain or an antagonist in one of these horror films, and yeah, so I think my answer would be Nightmare on Elm Street, and I want to be Freddy Krueger or Freddy Krueger's apprentice. I think, yeah, that
Hell
was,
yeah, that'd be sick, dude.
yeah.
Like, villains are always more interesting than heroes. I mean, I have to imagine it would be more fun to play a villain also. Like I know nothing about acting. Like we're gonna get into me educating myself here in a minute, but like it just seems like so much. Like you get to just, I don't know. I'm sure it's different for every project, but it seems like being a villain would be more fun to play. I don't know.
If it's a fun villain, because also Freddy was so much fun. Like he
Mm-hmm.
was just quirky, he was weird, and he was like he was menacing, but he also had these like ridiculous jokes. Like
Yeah,
I forget what
all
this
the one-liners and like
he was.
he was like a slapstick like slasher.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a weird like blend of comedy and horror, but not presented as comedic really.
yes. And the outfit, like how he just would just be in a room and just with the hat and the sweater, and it's just um I didn't see the latest one, uh the latest Nightmare on Elm Street. I heard that maybe they and look, maybe this is I what am I trying to say? They said that they possibly kind of tried to make the character more like relatable and do all these things. And I think sometimes you just got to keep the horror as just
Mm-hmm.
don't explain it. Just like we don't need to like empathize or it's just make it a fun character. Sometimes I think things get too now they're trying to like justify like I think they I heard this also about Halloween. They like tried to say that Michael Myers is like he's a victim of X, Y, and Z, and that's why he
Mm-hmm.
kills and stuff. It's like no, just he's just this killer. That's it.
Unstoppable machine of death. Yeah,
Yeah, like let's just
I
be in that
agree.
world, and so yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, with the Nightmare on Elm Street, they definitely did try to make him more sympathetic,
sympathetic.
and I'm like, I'm gonna have to bleep this out on my own YouTube channel. Let me see. So 28 minutes, about 29 minutes. Like the guy is a fucking murderer. Why does he need to be sympathetic?
Oh yeah, he's
Like
a
why?
pedophile. Shit, I forgot he was a fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be. Maybe I don't. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, dude, like the way he got burned, like in the original lore, is that he was caught like
Oh yeah,
doing bad things to the school because he was like a groundskeeper at a school or something.
you're
He
right.
was, yeah, or like maintenance man, whatever, and he was doing bad things to the kids, and so the townspeople came and like burnt him alive.
Forgot about that.
And yeah, so like I'm like that is a character that doesn't need to be made sympathetic. He's
Yeah,
supposed to be like the most vile thing people can imagine,
just evil.
and that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I also agree. And with Michael Myers, he's just one who really didn't need any explanation. Period.
Yeah.
Like he's just this monster who is unstoppable, and he's gonna keep coming until he kills you. You are gonna think you killed him, and then he's gonna show up 2 years later in another movie killing everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way he should be. um,
What other are there any other modern horror films that you're a big fan of? Because I feel like I just mostly know. I mean, like I love the what was that one Barbarian? I thought that was a lot of fun.
Barbarian was great. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
But I'm trying to think of and Babadook. I'm trying to think of some more modern ones. But do you have some that you?
Yeah, like so. I think Ari, dude, I've talked about this ad nauseum. Hereditary. Have you
Oh,
seen
yes.
Hereditary?
Oh yes. What am I talking about? Hereditary is great. Yes.
So like it. So I think that I'm gonna go over it very briefly. Everybody, don't worry. I'm not gonna go into a whole thing about it like I always do. Like I think that is technically one of the most proficient horror, maybe the most proficiently made horror films ever made on like a technical level. It just did not personally connect with me in the way that it did so many others. I personally didn't find it all that scary,
Mhm.
and I was no one was more disappointed than me that wasn't the case. I'm very glad that it was as successful and is such like a landmark in horror of the last few years. But like, so that is one that I would say that, to your question, that's one, but with that asterisk there, that like I didn't actually really enjoy it all that much, but I still, it holds a special place because it is such an intensely made. It,
Yeah.
I'm saying the wrong word. It is just a perfectly made movie, in my opinion. Like the Ari Aster, I think, is going to make. He is one day going to make what I consider to be one of the best horror films ever.
I can agree there. Yeah.
And like Midsummer, his next one, that's one that I would put on that list of recent horror movies. That, and funnily enough, that one didn't really grab me the first time I saw it in the theater with my dad when he was in town actually. And as the credits started rolling, we actually both looked at each other and we're like, "What the fuck did we just watch? Like, what is happening right now?" And it wasn't until a couple years later that I watched it with my wife Kimmy, and it whatever, I don't know what was missing that first time, but the second time I watched it, I was like, damn, okay, I get it. That was incredible. Um,
Yeah. What's interesting about
and
those is now that I think, sorry, go ahead. I didn't know if you were. Yeah.
oh no, no, please go ahead.
Uh, yeah, I've actually only seen both of them once, and I probably should give them a rewatch. Similarly, I was like, this is a great film, but why am I not watching it a second time?
Mm,
And um, but I just remember both of them had moments that made me really uncomfortable and made me really uh, kind of disoriented in a weird way, and I didn't like that feeling. And so
mm-hmm.
I think that's what's maybe stopping me from seeing it again because maybe it's the fear of like what is
Yeah.
really uncomfortable about this. But it's also making me think of which I forgot, which is one of my favorite of late, The Witch. The
Hell
Witch.
yeah, dude.
But
Robert Eggers is a beast.
yes,
Yes, a
still,
100%.
and similarly, where like the monster in your head is scarier than because they never really show. I mean, like they show the goat, and the witch, but they never
Mm-hmm.
you never really see the beast. I guess there's that moment at the end where like the beast is in the room with her or something. Anyway, but I the from the music to the writing, the like Shakespearean writing and execution,
Mm-hmm.
structure and the script, that would definitely be one of my favorites easily.
I would absolutely put that on my list. And also, actually, another Robert Eggers film, The Lighthouse. Did you see that one?
I did see that one. That one, I did not understand what that film was.
And so me neither.
Okay.
But you mentioned with Hereditary that like that feeling of like just being uncomfortable. I
Mm,
got that from The Lighthouse,
totally.
and because I'm watching it, I'm like, what is happening right now? I really have still to this day I have no clue what I watched when I saw that. But like just seeing uh Pattinson and Defoe just ping ponging off of each other was incredible to see. Like it's insane to me that wasn't nominated for something.
Yeah.
Like they both, you could tell everybody there put their everything into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that movie's wild. Um, and another one, most people will disagree with me. The new Exorcist that came out
Oh, I heard it's good.
6 months or so.
You
I
like?
liked it. I
Okay.
liked it a lot. Yeah, like it was, nothing's gonna beat the original, obviously,
Mhm.
especially with one that is often considered the scariest movie ever, as much as it is. Um, but I thought it was a good continuation. Like it suffered from the same pitfalls literally every horror movie does, but beyond that, like it was a worthy successor, I thought. And but then again, I like everything. So like people people always give me shit because they never hear me like actually criticize anything. Like I have criticisms, but my main thing when I'm consuming anything, video games, movies, TV, books, is like, am I enjoying it?
Yeah.
That's really like that's my most like that's what's most important to me about watching anything. My
Mhm.
dad, on the other hand, love him to death. I've said this before too. Like he fucking hates everything. Like
Well, you
he's
balance each other
he
out.
yeah, like he's I'm being hyperbolic obviously, but like he is very, to me, he's like overly critical about things. I think he sometimes forgets that like the purpose of a movie is to entertain you, it's to take you out of it for 2 hours. And
Mhm.
like maybe some are like intended to make you think, make you feel this or that, and like, but yeah, I don't know. Entertainment value is the most valuable to me,
Yeah.
and I got that from the new Exorcist. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
wonder if there's some. Also, I want to watch more foreign horror, which I just haven't really. I don't. I'm Nothing's on my radar right now, but that's I definitely remember like The Ring and like
Yeah, dude, The Grudge.
yeah, The Grudge. Yeah, some of those Korean ones are just yeah. I feel like there's some good, some exciting stuff going on. And there's this one that what was that, like Sweden or Norway? I remember people talking about. Anyway, the name will come to me later, but yeah.
There is South Korea is putting out, excuse me, the best horror outside of Hollywood. I mean, it's on par. I don't even want to compare the two, like, because it's all movies, but South Korea is an incredible market for horror. They've put out some really good ones, like Train to
Oh,
Busan,
that I
the
love that.
Wailing. Yeah, like they are killing it, and Indonesia as well is really starting to kind of cement itself as a good outlet for, mainly for action,
Mhm.
um, which, not to keep going back to the same question, but that uh, have you heard of The Raid, the action movie?
Oh yes, I've never seen it though. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Best action movie of all time.
Okay.
Changed the way Hollywood does action, but
Like
that was
was John
directed
Wick
by a guy.
that was John
Sorry,
was John Wick some of those inspired by the raid?
a
Some of
hundred percent.
yeah.
Yeah, like there would be no John Wick without the Raid,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Like, and not to take anything away from them, like they would have created something incredible anyway. But you can tell stylistically, and I think the way they go about doing stunts and stuff changed once Gareth Evans kind of made his mark with the Raid.
Mhm.
And speaking of Gareth Evans, he made a horror movie in 2018, I want to say, called Apostle. It came out on Netflix, and I loved that one. That was a really good one for,
Okay.
yeah, for modern. So if you're looking for one to watch, I would that would be at the top of my list, Apostle,
Hell
because
yeah.
it's got that, it's very reminiscent of movies like The Witch and The Lighthouse, and like just kind of keeps you going along, and with just very brief moments of just like holy shit.
Is it
And
period?
I'm sorry.
Is it like a period piece or is it
Yes.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's we established today that I'm bad with time zones. I'm also bad with guessing years. So I like
It's the
six,
olden times. Yeah, it's
yeah, it could be the 1600s, could be the 1800s. It's all the same.
yeah, it's all black and white and
Exactly. No sound. I'm
yeah.
just kidding. There's sound. um, so more. Okay, this is more generally more about acting in general, but I guess still actually connected to Channel Zero in a way.
Mhm.
So let me see. I actually wrote this down because I knew I wouldn't be able to remember it. So with Channel Zero, where fans of the show will will have recognized you from season 3 into season 4, is that like a are you consciously trying to like differentiate your performance? Like I know it's a different
Mhm.
character, it's written differently, but like is it like a conscious thought in your head that's like, "Oh, I did this a lot last season when I was in this, but now I'm playing Tom. I don't want to be doing the same things that Luke was doing." You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think that goes through that definitely went through my head. I definitely wanted to differentiate the characters. A lot of it is in the script. A lot of it is in also just the characters just want very different things in their circumstances. So there's a bit of, and this was something I was learning for myself at the time. There's a bit of trusting that, hey, you in this character is enough. But then there's also the part of me that like wanted to, you know, physically feel different and seem different. Um, all that goes into play. I remember when I was watching it at the time, I was like, afterwards, I was like, some of that worked, some of that didn't work. But you know, it was like you know, it was a learning experience. And it was a lot of fun. I definitely some of the specific things. I mean, like was just trusting that just with a bit of a different look because Tom was more of a grizzled, just kind of like capable person, and about Luke, Luke was supposed to be a bit younger and a bit naive and a bit more of a uh, uh, yeah, an innocent character who was trying to do well. So some of that was the physical, just like changing of the beard, the hair, things like that, and then Tom, I remember because uh, the director Evan Katz was like, or maybe he goes by El Katz. He was like, yo, so this is like Tom's like an action star, you know. He's got a because there are some action moments in the script because and it
Oh
was
yeah.
fun like that. And he was like, so I want you to like get into like the best shape of your life. So and then also because there were moments where like there were like scenes where like you know I'm in the hot tub and he's got to seem like yo he could take on Pretzel Jack
Physically imposing,
physically, and
yeah.
yeah. And and I was like, okay. And I had never really like dieted or lifted or done anything like that, you know. And you know, so some of it was just transforming myself physically. And then some of it was just like, you know, I tried to kind of like have more of like a grizzled talk to him. But it's fun. That's, you know, and like I said, some things I think work, some things for me personally, the critical me didn't work. But I still was always surprised when folks were like, didn't know that I was the same person from the previous a previous season, even though they had watched it. And so I guess in a way it was a success there. But it was so much fun, and I would love to continue to. I love characters. I'd love to like push the edge on that, even though these were like kind of two just. I'm going to say normal characters, like, but I would love to move like we talked about villains, or you know, I would love to move in the prosthetic realm. I would love to like you give me some weird thing, I'm like, yeah, let's go with it. Let's see how charactery we can get to just kind of explore the ranges of you know of characters. That's what gets me excited.
For sure. Yeah, the like you know the director James Wan? He made like Aquaman.
Okay.
He kind of made his bones in horror. He did The Conjuring, Insidious,
Oh yeah.
Saw.
Uh-huh.
He I read an interview with him once, and he said that he wants to do a movie in every genre. So he wants to do like he did horror, he did action with Fast and Furious 7. He did a superhero movie with Aquaman. Like I don't know. I think that's cool. Like it kind of goes to what you're saying. Like you've played these kind of characters. You want to do a villain. You want to do prosthetic. You want to be the monster. You want to like correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you would want to play a superhero.
Oh yeah, well, it depends on which
Yeah,
superhero. It depends on which super. Yeah, but yeah, it's what you know. Like I love like the boys. Did you watch the boys?
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
would love to do some type of. I mean, look, I'm not going to say no to like if Marvel was like, "Hey, we want you to play this character," like, sure.
Yeah.
But I love the how just weird and just unsuperhero like the boys
Mm-hmm.
superheroes are. But yeah, I just love challenges, and sometimes I think I'm at this place where I'm trying to lean more into the scarier it is, then I need to kind of like jump into that ring, because um when you're a child, like, you used to just jump into all these characters easily, and the more that like people start saying, "No, you know, you're more this type, you're kind of more of this works for you," or you start to get these certain parts, so then people kind of see you a certain way, it can
Mm-hmm.
kind of, for myself personally, get a little limiting, and then I start to also doubt, like, well, can will they see me outside of this box? And so I'm trying to like take down all those doubts and boundaries, and say, yeah, let's like jump into something wild and crazy, and also not being afraid to, like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work,
You're
but
right. At
I'm gonna,
least you'll know you tried.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of jumping into roles like that, if you could, there's two ways to ask this. I guess if you could like go back in time and be in any movie that has ever been made, like what movie would you want to be in?
Oh my
And
goodness.
then, or conversely, if you could just play any previously played character,
Wow,
who would you
this is
choose?
big questions. I mean, there it would probably, after we finish this interview, it's probably going to change. So I'm just going to go with whatever comes up. I don't know. One of the first things that came in was Terminator.
Hell yeah, dude.
I don't even know who. I just would love to be a Terminator. That that would be fun. Um, okay, previously ones, like, I loved Danny Glover in Predator 2. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that was a fun
Yes.
one. Uh, Geez, what else? Huh. There's so many. I mean, like, it's so many things. Like, I could think of so many Denzel characters. I love Training Day. Um, but like, there also, it's like, I don't think Denzel just did that. It's just
He
like,
was
I
Alonzo. Yeah.
yes, I would not trust myself to do that, but I wish that I could have been Alonzo. And
Yeah. Yeah.
done it.
And that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Um, God, there's so many. And then, I mean, but in the future, I'm a big Shakespeare buff. I would love to do like Henry V, like, or I'd love to do. Speaking of villains, Richard III. That'd be a fun one. And then I'm a big, okay. Maybe folks don't know this. I was a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I was a big
No
fantasy.
kidding.
Yeah, I love fantasy. So this okay. It took a while to get to this thing, and I'm gonna out myself, the nerd that is me. If there's a character that I could play ever, there are these books from the Forgotten Realms series about a dark elf, a drow, named Dritz Do Erden. Right? Dritz
Really diving deep here,
Driscoll
man.
Erden is the baddest motherfucker ever, dude. He escaped from this place, Menzo Baranzan, and like, he's just this like elf from this group of elves that are like kind of considered evil, and he just like he finds his moral compass. He's very poetic, and he's just the baddest with these two scimitars. And I'm telling you, R.A. Salvatore, that's the writer. If there's ever talk about making a series or a movie about Dritz Erden, the Forgotten Realms, the Drow, Menzo Baranzan, I am so in, like, whatever. I'll do it for free. I will do it for free. Maybe not for free, but but
Scale.
I think the story is amazing. Like, the if you don't know these books, man, like, even on audiobook, they're great. I listened to them recently. I mean, I read them as a kid multiple times, but the first one's about the Drits, like, coming out of like the underworld. It's there's potential for horror, maybe not horror, but it's dark. It's dark. It's like
Yeah,
dark fantasy, and I think there's a lot of potential there. So yeah,
that's awesome. I actually am just recently starting to get into Dungeons and Dragons. My wife is helping me along because, like,
oh,
on
nice.
paper,
I like
Dungeons and
your wife.
Dragons.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, she's the shit. She's the
Yeah.
best, dude. Um, like on paper, I should have been a Dungeons and Dragons fan from my childhood. I know it's something I'll love, but for whatever reason, it just always like eluded me, and I'm now trying to get into like tabletop gaming, and it's sick, dude. It's just so complex,
Yeah, so
and so like there's just so much to like remember, and I know you have like reference guides and everything, but it's just like damn, it's overwhelming almost.
yeah, and
But
I was a dungeon master, man, and this was back in like the '90s. So I don't know how complex it is now. I imagine it's just as complex, but after a while, you kind of, depending on what group you're with, how hardcore they are, you kind of just make your own rules and figure it out and just roll out of dice. But I think that was one of my first times really kind of, I mean, maybe before that, but I really loved acting in these characters. When I was,
I didn't even consider that. Yeah, that really would be like acting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would create these worlds, and then like, I'd have to play all these different characters with whoever's in the campaign. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think that was one of my first times kind of like really, again, like taking it a bit seriously, because I knew that if I created all these different characters for the people who were playing, it was just going to make it a more enjoyable experience. And
Right.
but yeah, and the books, some of those old like Dungeons and Dragons, like the Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, that's the authors, are just they're really just solid stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To that end, there's another tabletop game, Call of Cthulhu, which is based on the Lovecraft, and I am a Lovecraft
Oh,
buff. Whatever. Like Lovecraft is my type of horror, and it's crazy how many like superbly written books there really are in there. And I'm going to
yeah.
be getting into reading some of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and I have no doubt it's going to be the same. Like it's just it's almost like the books being a part of these games is almost limiting to their kind of exposure and their reach, I guess, because like it's just wild that this book isn't whatever the title is, like isn't considered amongst like some of the best Lovecraftian horror. Or in Dungeons and Dragons, I imagine it's going to be, I'm going to read some and be like, damn, this is some of the best fantasy I've read in a long time,
Yeah.
and I hadn't heard of it until right now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's just there's so much out there.
No, and that's why I'm so curious about. I feel like they have. I saw the recent Dungeons and Dragons movie, and it was fun.
Mhm.
Uh, but I'm still waiting for them to get it right, like they got kind of like Lord of the Rings right.
Yeah.
And because talk about like when we moved from this superhero IP and moved to something else. Like I love what they're doing with Dune. Um,
Yes.
and I just think there's potential. Someone's got to get it right for like some of these Dungeons and Dragons, or more like fantasy, these old school fantasy stories, to be adapted into something that's, I guess, accessible, or it's 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 worthy of the writing.
Yeah, like something that captures the complexity but doesn't limit people unfamiliar with it from getting into it.
Hmm.
Yeah, which I mean that's the tightrope right there. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, you got to find a good writer for that. It's
yeah.
not me.
Oh man, you never know. You never know. I mean, I'm telling you, yo, Nick, read. I'm gonna send you the title of these
Yeah, please. I
Erden
was gonna
books.
ask you to.
Read those, and you never know. Maybe you'll get inspired, and then you'll write the script, and then next you know, yo. But if you write this script, you better come.
I'm like, everybody is eligible for this lead character,
Wow,
Brandon Scott,
wow,
400th in line. I'm just kidding, man. You'd be number one, man. Come on now. I'm not stingy like that. You've let me interview you twice. I will give you my soul if you ask for
wow.
it.
I'll remember that.
So we are actually kind of getting down to the wire here. I did just have one other question. I'm sure you've been asked it before. Uh, do you have any directors that you would drop everything to go work for, to
Oh,
make a movie with?
wow. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm gonna butcher their name. Well, Dennis Villeneuve, is that how you pronounce his
Mm-hmm.
name? Yeah. Him. I just love what he's doing. Christopher Nolan. I mean, I love all his stuff. Yeah, Robert Eggers. He's the guy who did Witch, right? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Ari Aster. No,
Yep.
who's the guy? Yes, yeah, Ari Aster. Sorry if I'm butchering your names, guys. I know your work. And then there's this. I can't think of her name right now, but I'm a big. Okay, so also I love this like horror. I love this act. I love this genre, but I also love just like really good love stories, right? And one or complex ones too. But Wong Kar Wai is one who he did this movie In the Mood for Love, which is probably my favorite movie. It's like this. I think it's a Cantonese film out of Hong Kong, but it's brilliant. I watched it. It's probably one of my top favorite movies. And then I recently watched uh, Past Lives, which is by this new director. I think she's out of Canada, and it's her directorial debut. I would drop anything to work with her because this movie reminded me of a modern Wong Kar Wai and its complexity, its cinematography, but it's also simplicity. And yeah, Past Lives was one of my favorite movies. And there's probably other people, but those are the people who come to mind right now. And I can't remember.
Okay.
That's fucked up. Um,
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I don't act, but if I were ever offered to
yeah, who do you want to
be
work with? Who do you want?
Tarantino, dude.
Oh yeah, okay, yes, of course, Tarantino. Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
Kevin Smith
Okay.
is
Yeah.
Kevin Smith is the reason I write today.
Oh wow.
Don't ask me why I did this, but when I was I think 12 years old, I read the screenplay to Clerks. I
Mm.
have no idea why I was 12 years old reading screenplays. Like
How did you get
I printed it, dude.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was a website that you could download screenplays on, and I printed like 270 pages on my grandparents' computer. They were so mad.
Oh yeah.
I used all the ink and all the paper. And but no, man, like that. I was I can remember the feeling of reading these words and picturing everything that I was reading, and like that, just that connection there. Like, and I had read as a kid, obviously, like, but I guess like because then when I watched the movie, I was like, holy shit, like I have already seen this, like
Mm,
because of the way that he wrote it. I have already seen this just up here instead of on the screen.
mhm.
And that just fascinated me. And I got to thank him personally, actually, at a convention not long ago, which was top top 5 moment of my life. That's me and Kevin Smith. That's
Oh,
me and Silent Bob.
so dope. So I heard
Yeah,
I
man.
hear he's great. I
He's
have
such a nice dude. Yeah,
a
I've like talked to him on. Sorry, I've like talked to him on like Twitter and stuff before too. Not like
nice.
huge conversations or anything, but just asking him stuff, and yeah, it's really cool. So
That's awesome.
he's yeah, Tarantino and Kevin Smith are my two answers for I would drop anything to just sit in a room with them for a day and just even to just watch them work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but all right, man, we are about at an hour here. I just wanted to, I really appreciate you doing this with me again, man.
Of
This was
course.
fun.
Anytime, man. It's always great. It's always yeah. Please don't hesitate to holler for whatever. But yeah, even if you want to do whenever, you just let me know.
For sure. I will definitely take you up on that. You don't know what you just offered me, my friend.
Well, you offered me your soul, so okay. The least I can do is,
Fair enough.
is more whatever.
Leveling the playing field
Yeah.
here a little bit. I appreciate that. If people want to find you like online, where can they do so?
Yeah, Instagram probably is the best way. I think it's under Brandon O. Scott, but there are a couple of Brandon Scotts out there, so just make sure you click the right one. And yeah, you can find me, holler at me, whatever.
Awesome. All right, man. I appreciate it. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, definitely, definitely,
Later.
awesome. Be well.